So let's crack on. A little bit of follow up. We love follow up here on the show.
Yeah.
I wanted to follow up a little bit from our last conversation on shitty male motivation. I wanted to hit this point when we were talking then last time. So as like men, it can be hard to find good community spaces to speak on, I guess political issues or gender dynamics as they affect men. It's really hard to do that without stumbling upon some really, really terrible corners of the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do want to put it out there. I want to recommend this subreddit. I use Reddit a lot. That's where I found the original starter pack that we talked about at length last episode. But on this particular subreddit, this is a subreddit called R Men's Lib, and it's short for Men's Liberation, and it is a very positive. It's a feminist space. It's a feminist space for men to talk about gender politics and issues in the world as they affect men. And it's super intersectional. We talk about the folks there talk about men of color. They talk about queer men. They talk about members of the LGBTQ community. It's it's a very, very positive space. Intersectional, it's feminist, and it's just a very tightly moderated space for men to talk about issues that affect them. And like I mentioned, super duper intersectional. It is not in that vein of the men's rights movement or anything like that.
Yeah, because when you hear like that title, like Men's Liberation, I think it's like obviously apt because it's like, I think the point is like kind of liberating men from these kind of like toxic spaces and like toxic attitudes and environments.
Exactly. Well, exactly. And that is the entire notion of it. It is, it's anti-toxic masculinity. It's pro-feminist. But, there are some disagreements that go on there. But it's a great space to like air out those discussions and to have them in a positive way. And like I mentioned, it is super duper tightly moderated.
That's kind of like, I feel like for these kind of discussions, that's kind of a necessity,
Yeah, but it's not a bad thing. It's not a dystopian, oppressive space or anything. And I know for sure that women and folks that don't identify as male are also very welcome to engage and be part of the discussion. So it's a very, very open space. So I do want to just put that out there. If you're a man or identify as a man and you are feeling maybe left out of certain discussions, or you feel like you can throw your hat in the ring on, gender dynamics that affect men and toxic masculinity and so on and so forth. That's a great place on Reddit to put there. Again, I'll put it in the show notes. It's R Men's Lib. And I'm checking it right now just to see how many subscribers they have. I think it was like 250,000. No, it's 186,000. So I definitely want to see that number go up. Because again, it's a very, very positive, progressive, feminist space to discuss masculinity in a modern context, but also, not just in the West, but also in, all parts of the world. Again, super duper intersectional. Just wanted to throw that out there. I meant to put that in last time, but here we are now in follow up. I just wanted to throw that out there. Just real quick, more discourse. Let's just talk about, this has been, it's kind of ironic, we have just passed the first day of fall, so maybe cooler temperatures are starting to kind of wander in. Temperatures have dropped like 10 degrees here in Laredo over the past week, so it's not...
Yeah, same.
It has been noticeable, but it's still, you're still in Texas. It's still short season for a while still.
It's always short season in this house.
Just wanted to quickly touch on a few things that I've noticed about the discussions around shorts. It's not a lot, but I have noticed whenever I'm at the store, like a Target or a Walmart or any other clothing store, I've noticed something that I never noticed before, that a lot of shorts brands are now advertising what the inseam number is on the tags. You never had that before. Okay.
You would just like, you look at it, you have to eyeball it, Yeah.
You had to eyeball it. You got to bring your measuring tape to Kohl's or whatever. Now they're telling you straight up, this inseam, this is that inseam. You know which ones to avoid. I avoid any number bigger than 7. I'm sorry, you know, that's where I'm at today. Right now, I'm wearing my bare bottom 5.5 inches. Super, super comfortable. I really recommend these shorts. But seriously, I mean, I was at Target like last month, and all of the shorts, you know, that Target sell, they're coming out with the inseam numbers, because now I think they realize that consumers, male consumers anyway, they're looking at the numbers, and they're more cognizant of the numbers than ever before. And I've attached some kind of crappy article here from The Guardian that talks about the advent of the shorts that, you know, they were really, really the wave this past summer, you know, and you know, when you saw me in person, you know, I was rocking them. So, I mean, I think
he was rocking them. He was rocking them.
Yeah.
And we have pictures to prove it. We've
We
got
do.
memories to prove it. You know, I think it's funny that I actually like had this. I feel like this is like shorts, follow up. You know, because I feel like this is like one that we've like throughout the summer, which makes sense that we've like continuously come back to. I think I have two theories about why they're putting the inseams on. One is like exactly what you're saying about like, you know, it's becoming a popular thing. But I think two, you know, with the COVID situation being as it is, I think that they're more wanting to be more hesitant with people trying on their wares, you know, and like they kind of want people to be like, okay, you know you're a medium, you don't need like, and we'll tell you what the inseam is so you can know how like high up it fits, so you don't like need to try it on if you like want to, I guess. I don't know.
Anything that makes the clothes you try on at the store less tried on in general is probably a good thing.
yeah, like not even COVID wise, just like general, like I don't want my, especially bottoms or tops really, but really bottoms for me, it's like I don't want my stuff to be where someone else's stuff once was. But anyway, to kind of go into I was gonna say more personal, but like that was pretty personal what I just said. So to go into like a different kind of personal side of it, about like a month ago, it's between the times that we've last recorded and like now. Sure. So maybe about a month ago, I went to Target and I was gonna, you know, pick me up like a pair of shorts. Like I was gonna go. I had just gotten back from. I needed new shorts for one, and like also I needed new shorts like specifically at that moment, because I was like, I had just gotten back from a trip and like I was going somewhere and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So yeah, I was going to Target to get some shorts, and like I was like really eyeing the like, you know, short. I forget what the inseam was, but like probably like we're talking like 4 inches, like less than 5 inches. Because 5 inches Super is pretty short. 5 inches is pretty standard for me now. You know, I think I've gotten to that point. But 4 inches is like, you know, less than 5 is like, ooh, that's like
4 inches. Now you're rocking that like 80s athletic look, you know. But hey, it's kind of it's in right now. Yeah,
it isn't. Okay, so but I was eyeing it, and like I tried it on this like in the dressing room. I was like, ooh, it's probably like 3.5. I think is like, because that's like usually the standard. I think it's like 3.5. But anyway, I was like eyeing it, tried it on, but I just like couldn't, like the anxiety of like buying it. Like I just couldn't like get myself to buy it, because I was like, oh man, like, you know, I'm gonna like, cause this is like the kind of thing I was gonna wear like later that day, right? Because I needed shorts that day. So I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can like pull it off, and like it's getting me. And so I ended up like not pulling the trigger and purchasing the shorter shorts. I purchased the longer shorts. But then later that week, you know, just to give like a quick chronicle of my relationships with my shorts, I went on like, I was like, you know, I still need new athletic shorts, like purely athletic shorts. So I went online and I just like went and I bought a new, I don't even remember what the brand name was, but it was like 3.5 inch inseam, like gym shorts. Holy cow. Yeah. And I just like pulled the trigger, because I was like, I need to do this. If I'm not going to do this now, then it's now or never, you know, because it's like when you're at home, I feel like you're like, oh yeah, I can pull off like this short. But like sometimes when you go into society and there's all of the societal eyes looking on you,
there's so much society looking at you.
It's not the fact that they're looking at me, it's also the fact that we live in one. I think it's like the two things.
Yes, thank you.
But so we do live in a society, and I do need some drawers. I do need some shorts. So I bought the shorts, and I got them like a week ago, and I have to tell you, I am in love. I'm in love with these shorts. They like, I got my like thick thunder thighs out here. Just, you know, I've been doing my squats, been doing my leg press. I'm just trying to get like some swole legs here. And, nice. They really accentuate, and I think that's like, how like people are like, when you first see someone, look at my eyes, don't like, look in my face, where right. Your eyes wandering. It's like, right. I'm now at a place when I'm wearing my short 3.5 inch inseam shorts. Like I want people to be like looking at my thighs. Like that's where I want my eyes. It's like, I want like all of the view to be like put at this area. Cause I'm just, it's given me a newfound thigh confidence that I don't think that really existed in my life now. Top five.
I think with this, we're at the halfway point of our original plan because we wanted to do top 5s for 10 episodes. So that's from 10 to 19. And with 14, unless my math is wrong, that is the halfway point, technically. Wow. Like once we finish this one, it'll be at the halfway point. So
wow, we committed to something and we did the thing.
We're close to being halfway done with the thing. So we'll see how committed we are. We're doing the thing. So
we are a decent way into the thing.
For this segment, we've done something a little different. We have decided that our top 5 for this week is going to be top 5 cities we want to visit,
but have not.
Yes. But have not visited, right? So the stipulation is that you can't have already been there. I think maybe I could let it slide, like if you were there for like
a layover,
an airplane layover. Yeah, layover. I love how you immediately knew I was going to say layover, because it doesn't count if you laid over there, or even if you were there when you were like 5 and you didn't appreciate it because you were too young to remember.
Well, is this like? Are you giving yourself some leeway here? Like, is this like something?
No, I'm not. No. I promise you, I'm not. My picks are places that I've never been to. I was anticipating giving you some leeway, but
man, I appreciate the. Yeah, No, there's no leeway needed on this. I appreciate the potential leeway, but
Yeah, well, I'm nice. I'm polite. I just want to give you some. I want to give you some leeway.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. So last time we talked about how segments are too long. All right, and we decided that we would try the machine gun format. So we just let her rip, and then we have like a general discussion there, and it did result in a shorter discussion. However, it didn't result in as rich of a discussion of each of our individual picks, right? Mm-hmm. Now, then we had floated the potential idea of a time limit per choice, right? So we mentioned like number five, but for that, we had a time limit of 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to discuss it, and then we have to crack on with the next one. Mm-hmm. That gives time for both of us to discuss each of our picks, because last time we kind of didn't go over a few of them on both of our video game lists, and I think that maybe you would have wanted to talk about like your Lord of the Rings game, or I would have wanted to talk about Super Mario Galaxy 2, which we didn't really get to do any of that for either. This time I want to make sure each choice on our lists is discussed at least somewhat, while trying to keep an eye towards punctuality. I think it's funny, this meta talk of like, we have a segment that we've committed ourselves to, but we're also like, okay, but they're taking too long. I just think it's funny. It's like this internal conflict with the episodes. Like, I just think it's funny.
It's like we want to do the thing, but we need to like figure out how to do the thing. We're doing the thing, but we need to like recalibrate how.
Do the thing, but make it snappy. Yep. My idea is to do what I just said, time limit each discussion. Initially, I had thought 5 minutes per choice, but 5 times 10 makes it 50 minutes, which is like, that's still too long. That's like the part of the problem. So I'm going to do, I think, 3.5 minutes. So in theory, and of course, I still cut stuff out, right? So in theory, the whole segment should be about 35 minutes, which I'm happy with. Yeah. So what do you say?
I am down. And so would I be timing your segment and you be timing mine, or what would...
Yeah, I think that would be good. So that way you're not staring at your own clock and getting self-conscious about that. So I have my Google timer pulled up here, 3 minutes and 30 seconds per. And, I'll time you and I'll let you know when you're done, and be rude, interrupt me, like, say like, hey, shut up, stop talking. We got to crack on.
We've got a podcast, okay? We got a podcast to get to. We got some other discussions to get to, so.
Yeah, and including a very, very widely anticipated album review that we will not mention. Could be anybody. We won't mention it. So yeah, let's get started. I don't know if you would like to begin or I'd like to begin. Maybe we can flip a coin for that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's flip a coin to decide who starts the segment.
All right. Do you have a coin?
I am currently looking for a coin.
I love the ASMR of Marco jostling through his drawers.
I'm like opening cabinets. I'm standing up, like looking for coins. Okay, hold on.
I've got a dice near me, so we could do like evens or odds if we wanted to.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear the jostle. I love the jostle.
I hope that the listeners can hear it. There are some coins right there.
That's a jostle.
Right there. I have a coin. I have a penny from 1944.
Wow.
That'll be our penny. So call it heads or tails.
Heads.
Heads. Okay. Oh, I fell on the floor. Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna try again. Everyone knows it needs to fall on the table for it to count.
Yeah.
Heads. That's heads. It's all you, buddy. You're gonna go ahead and start.
Wow.
Oh wait, or should it be like
I get to
choose who starts? Yeah, you choose who starts. Yeah.
Well, I choose me.
Oh, okay. How convenient.
Yeah, how convenient that is. Yeah, maybe I probably should have been a gentleman, but you know, we're here now. We're in it. And you can start my time.
All right, go ahead. Okay,
my number 5 city is Berlin in Germany.
Nice. So nice. Yeah, great pick.
It's and I'm kind of surprised. Honestly, my biggest surprise with this is that it fell all the way to 5 because Berlin, you know, it's like such a you know, of the European cities that I have not been to. Which for context, I've only ever been to England and Italy, or the United Kingdom and Italy.
Right.
Berlin is of the cities like I haven't visited in England or in Europe. Berlin is like one of the most iconic cultural just hubs of and biggest cities, you know, on the continent. So yeah, Berlin. You know, there's a lot of like my dad. I think the big impetus for this is my dad visiting there, I think during the 90s, I think, because I think this was like pre or post like Berlin Wall coming down. So my dad, I think, visited there in the 90s, pre-marriage, but post Berlin Wall falling down, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, he just went there and to the, you know, Germany in general, and maybe this is kind of encapsulating Germany in general. But like he just was talking about like the culture and like the like technological like attitudes and like, you know, just kind of like the general attitudes of everything being very planned and being very like meticulously thought out, like the city organizational structure and all that, like the public transportation, like everything was just very much organized very well, and like everything had a place and it like did the role that it was supposed to do. So I think that even from that perspective, like let's like not even talk about the culture, like let's talk about like the city, like right now, like the city is like absent of its history, which is, you know, obviously you can't really take that like that away from a city, but it's like, you know, if you just looked at it on objectively, like I think that's just an amazing achievement. I think that the one thing that you have to talk about, and I'm probably going to talk about every single one of these cities, the food is like, I feel like that's like the thing.
The gastronomy is super important.
Yeah, I'm a gastronomist. Okay,
you're a foodie.
I'm a foodie. I'm a gourmand. I think that's the term for it.
Oh no!
Is that too okay?
I'm saying no.
I thought we were taking it European. You know, if we were making it European, that sounds very European. But anyway, that's another like super like amazing part of Germany is like I've actually like recently. I think if you asked me like a year ago, I'd have been like, I'm not like as jiving with German food, but like recently, I feel like I've gotten like an appreciation for like the meat, the sausage, the schnitzel, the meats, the German meats, and then strudel. Like the pretzel, the kind of pastry / you know, bread based products. Yeah. Like you know, I can mess up. Oh, dang. Okay. Wow. Okay, I'm looking forward to being the times up.
That was pretty rude. That was pretty
for you.
That was rude. That was ruder than I anticipated. But yeah, I mean, that's how we are in the wrong fit. Time's up. Shut up. And move on. That's
Are
great.
You ready?
I love. Yeah. Oh. Can't use up my time talking about your city.
Okay. I know. Yeah. We gotta keep this democratic. Okay, keep this fair.
All right. My number 5 is taking it all the way to Southeast Asia. My number 5 is Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
Wow.
Now, I for the past year, I have been really, really interested in particularly this region, this country actually, just the country of Malaysia, but also its neighbor Indonesia and Singapore. I have just been fascinated by I think the rapid economic growth of those regions, the population growth. I have been really interested in the the climate around those regions, the kind of warm and humid, consistent climate. I don't know. I have this fascination with monitoring weather and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But part of it is also a cultural admiration as well, and the rapid economic growth of these regions. And I think Kuala Lumpur, along with Singapore and along with I believe Jakarta is the capital of Indonesia. I think those are the biggest symbols of that growth of that region, and in that time period these have become super duper modern cities and super interesting with no shortage of very interesting bleeding edge architecture. Kuala Lumpur is home to the Petronas Towers, which were for a time the tallest buildings in the world.
Ooh.
And again, this is just one of the big financial centers of Southeast Asia, and again the architecture is just insane. I mean, a lot of the best innovation coming out of just architecture and skyscrapers and stuff like that, and city planning and infrastructure building, it's coming out of Southeast Asia. And I think, I don't know, I mean, it's a city that has a lot of draw to me, in the confluence of cultures in that area. The Malay culture, Indonesian culture, Chinese culture as well. It's very, very, very present there as well.
I was gonna say, what is the dominant religion there? Is it Islam?
That's where I was going with the intersection of Islam and all of that as well. I think, to me, from a historical standpoint, is really fascinating. And I mean, it's one of the historical cities as well, and it's, I don't know. I mean, it's just, there's a draw to it. There's no other place like that, particularly in the West, that exemplifies all of those things. Again, the rapid growth, the economic growth, population growth, the consistent climate, the financial aspect of it. I just think it's just a really fascinating place. And again, the architecture is just, I mean, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, I mean, just look at it. I mean, Kuala Lumpur, and also to an extent Singapore as well, they are just leading that industry. So I would say that's my number 5. It kind of just barely edges out Singapore, which I've mentioned a lot in this part. Oh, okay. Oh wow, that, I felt like you had I feel like you went into it a lot, and then I couldn't, and then I was like stuttering and stammering, and I was like, oh wait, why do I like this city? I forgot.
I think we'll get used to it more after a while, but I definitely, there was some pent up aggression of my time's up.
Yeah, hey, it's payback for what I did to you. All right, so
I wanted to put my back into it. But okay, so my number 4 is Istanbul, Turkey, formerly known as Constantinople. Where the East meets the West. This is just this city. I talked about Berlin. Obviously, there's tons of history there, but I was talking about things kind of ahistorically. And Istanbul, it's there's so much history there of the development and the back and forth, going from being part of the Roman Empire to being the Holy, or the Byzantine Empire to the Ottoman Empire to now being independent state Istanbul, or Turkey. I think that's in just the name change as well, and just seeing the architectural influences on places like the Hagia Sophia, which is top five buildings in the world. Nice. Which maybe that would be a fun fun discussion topic. But
yeah, favorite buildings. Yeah,
I again, this is a place I haven't been, so it's harder for me to say like best in the world. But it's like amazing, just like looking at the huge, the dome and like all that, and seeing the Eastern Western influences on that. Like seeing that it was originally a Western, it was a church, I believe. It was like a Christian church, and now it's been like adjusted to have the minarets for the Islamic faith. That's like important in their architecture.
Yeah, that's
just amazing to me. The like I'm gonna talk briefly about the food because I don't want it to dominate the conversation, but like right. Like Middle Eastern or like Middle Eastern influenced food, like with the like I think that I'm not even super familiar with like Turkish food, but I just think that would be a fascinating journey.
But you want to get familiar. You want to get over there and get familiar, man. Sounds so good. I mean, it's that confluence of European influence, of Asian influence, and like Arabic, Middle East influence. I mean, that you just know the gastronomy is just killer
because they can like pick from all these influences and they're like best influence of the day. So what is your relationship with like this town, this city?
I mean, Istanbul was in my list of cities before I whittled it down. Yeah. So I guess I just spoiled my own.
Yeah, I'm on the cutting room floor, I guess. My list.
but I mean, come on. What can you say about Istanbul? I mean, it's like one of the cultural centers of the world. Its history is super pivotal and vital to human history and just the confluence, which is a word you're going to hear me say a lot, but the confluence of cultures. I mean, there's three major religions, there's empires, there's continents, there's regional powers, and then to say nothing of the very interesting history of Turkey itself. I mean, there's nothing you can say about it. I mean, I think just in sheer terms of cultural clout, so to speak, I mean, who can beat Istanbul? I mean, maybe... No, nobody. Like, I don't think anybody can beat Istanbul. I mean, I'm thinking it, but I mean, Istanbul. Well, and that's time's up. Actually, that's perfect.
Wow,
that is exactly time's up. Yeah. So, my number 4. We were talking about Leeway before, and I think on this, I'm gonna ask humbly for some leeway.
Okay, he's getting leeway. Okay.
Because this is not a specific city. This is more like a region. But there are a few cities here that I could name. But my number 4 is the French Riviera.
Ooh.
I'm talking Nice. I'm talking the other one, Cannes. I'm talking Monaco. The French Riviera. The
beautiful.
Yeah, super gorgeous. I fantasize so much about just giving up all my possessions and going to live in the super cultural Mediterranean paradise on the Riviera. I mean, the Mediterranean had a lot of spots on my list. I had the Riviera, I had Athens, I had Algiers and Tunis and Casablanca. I had in North Africa, I had it in South Europe, the Mediterranean.
These all were cut. These got cut. These other ones got cut.
All of these got cut. Again, more spoilers for my list that don't mention any of these. But I had no shortage of Mediterranean options to choose from. This is a region of the world that I am super fascinated with. But for this, I had to give it narrowly to just the region of the Riviera on the French side. I love French classical cuisine. I mean, the whole...
He's a classic boy.
The whole like thing that we are taught here as... like the right way to cook overwhelmingly comes from French classical, particularly here in the United States. And then, like Gordon Ramsay, like his whole thing, French classical, and all of those other master chefs and whatever, the whole thing is French classical. And
Ratatouille?
You're Ratatouille. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't on the Riviera, but yeah.
No.
All of that is from France. And, why don't Americans eat like English people do? You can thank France for that.
Thank you, France. Thank you so much.
Thank you, France. Yeah, thanks, France, for that. So, yeah, I just think that the Riviera in particular is a cultural region with lots of great places to go. I mentioned Monaco. There's Nice. There's Cannes as well with the film festival. I know there's another place. I think Marseille is there too. Yeah, I think I probably butchered that pronunciation.
No,
I don't speak French.
That's right. I thought it was Marseille for a while, but I think I get confused. It's either Marseille or Marseille, but
Marseille may not even be in the Riviera. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it's on the coast. It's on like the
yeah,
like
but not the entire coast is the Riviera. That's an important distinction as well. But I mean, the whole French coast is just gorgeous. Yeah, really simping for France here. I mean, I just like they just dominate in my mind. When I think of European aesthetics, I just think of the Riviera. Yeah,
that's beautiful. My girlfriend's family is from. That's why I like have tangential knowledge of Marseille or Marseille. I think it's Marseille now. Marseille is that my girlfriend's family is lives there, and she's like visited there a few times, and like she says it's an amazing country, amazing like culture and whatnot and what have you. So yeah, I definitely think that's a quality inclusion in your top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I just Googled it, and Marseille is just outside of what is considered the Riviera, but we'll throw it in. We'll throw it in, and I'll forfeit the rest of my time. I'm not sure how much time I had left, but I'll forfeit it. You have 0
time. That was amazing.
Okay. Well, we're doing very well.
My number 3 is the city of Cairo, Egypt. This is like, again, going to like, I guess I'm like a big history buff, big fan of the buffer sides of history. But like Cairo's just got so like, I could just like end this segment right now and just say like pyramids, like just pyramids, period. Like that's like amazing.
Yep.
Like, the Egyptian and I think that I put cities just to like narrow it down, but I would hopefully, if I go on an Egyptian trip, I'm definitely going to visit like the, outer parts of the different areas. But like the amazing thing that I've heard, I've never been there again, like that's why it's on the list. But the amazing thing I've heard is just that Cairo, you just like look out and like you're in the city and it's like the pyramids are like right there.
Yeah.
I think it's on the outskirts, right? But like kind of like it's almost like Central Park. They're like Central Park, or they're like, I'm trying to think of a better example of like this like.
Yeah. No, I've seen satellite of Cairo. The pyramids are like just outside the confines of the city. A very, very densely packed city. I mean, it's all around the Nile. The Nile really is like the fertile fruit that just keeps on giving. If you've ever looked at satellite of Egypt, I mean, the region around the Nile is super green. And then the rest of Egypt is the Sahara. It's desert.
Counting Istanbul, Cairo and Istanbul are the only, like you were mentioning Mediterranean, like those are my 2 Mediterranean places. I don't know if these like, because they're kind of upstream a bit and like whatever.
Well, they're all culturally connected too.
Yeah. And that's the amazing thing is like the complete, not only geographic distance, but also cultural distance between your French Riviera, like my Istanbul, my Cairo. It's like amazingly different. I think that with both Istanbul and Cairo, you're getting like, these are definitely like ideal places to visit, but like, I think you're definitely getting into issues of safety, and that's like definitely something like I think maybe when planning like a more realistic like experience of like travel, maybe that's something more to take into account. But
and I think it's important to remember as well, like, I mean, there's the aspect of privilege too. I mean, not on my list quite yet, but I've, a lot of my, a lot of my honorable mentions or whatever, like, they're not places that I think a lot of women would like to travel to.
Yeah,
particularly.
That's true.
So that's something that something that we're cognizant of, we're aware of,
especially by themselves and even by myself. Going into a lot of these places. Obviously, I'm definitely not a big traveler by myself person. I don't think that's not really my vibe. But safety wise, also. That's definitely something to consider with some of these places. But Cairo, it's like the city, the culture, the food.
It's a cultural jewel. Yeah,
and like I sound like such like a American white nerd guy, but like Istanbul. Like I remember playing in the Assassin's Creed game that takes place in Egypt. I believe it's called Origins, and like just like running around, free roaming or whatever. And I was just like, man, if I could see this in real life, that would be amazing.
Time's up. Yeah.
Wow. That was like a really nerdy but like good place to end it.
Just quick Googling while you were speaking. I just confirmed. I mentioned Casablanca as part of the Mediterranean. Casablanca is not in the Mediterranean. So before anyone hates on me for that, I know that it's not. I just meant Morocco in general, but I just assumed Casablanca was on the Mediterranean. It is not. It's in the.
Well, these are places that we haven't been to. Be a little bit like fair to us here, because these are places we have not been to. So it's like, how are we supposed to know? Like we can't look outside our door and see if the sea's there or not.
Yeah. My number 3, let's take it back. Let's take it back to the New World. All of our picks have been in Asia or in Europe or in Africa. I'm taking it back to the Americas, and my number 3 is Mexico City.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, this is a place that I actually think I have somewhat of a much easier time probably getting to. I think everyone would have a much easier time getting to Mexico City than Cairo.
Yeah,
but I think it's especially acute for me because within this year I got my Mexican citizenship. So I'm dual citizen, the U.S. and Mexico.
Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, traveling should be a little easier, and maybe with an eye towards residence. Maybe we can talk about that at a future episode of The Wrong Fit. But yeah, Mexico City. What else is there to say about it? It's one of the biggest cities, if not, I think the biggest city in the Americas, one of the biggest in the world.
It
certainly.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is the biggest in this side of the pond.
Yeah, again, I'm going to say the word confluence. The confluence of cultures in that region is just incredible. I mean, Mexico City, of course, was, Tenochtitlan was the capital of the Aztec Empire. Of course, colonialism always rears its ugly head in any travel discussion, but still, you can take the good with the bad. I mean, the intersection of the Aztec culture, the Spaniard culture, and then the mix of that we get, which is of course contemporary Mexican culture. It is summed up very well in Mexico City. There is a plaza called Plaza de las Tres Culturas, which refers explicitly to those 3 cultures.
Yeah.
And everything in Mexico City is of the 3 cultures. I mean, the presence of that is everywhere, and there's so much to admire. There's so much to see. On this front, the gastronomy part is always a big part of every travel destination.
Absolutely.
But Mexico City residents have a troubled reputation on the Mexican gastronomy front. I won't say too much because I don't know as much about it, but they are the people that think quesadilla optionally carries cheese, something with which the entire rest of the nation of Mexico looks at them and rolls their eyes.
Yeah.
Because that's crazy. Quesadillas are not optional with cheese, okay? Not optional. It's a requirement.
I mean, isn't it like etymologically
it's in the I know. Well, you can't tell them that. So, on the gastronomy front, they're a little suspect, but I mean, there's still every region of Mexico is in Mexico City. I mean, you have Central South, Deep South, the North. Everyone has a slice of Mexico City. So there's going to be, you're going to get your favorite Mexican food there no matter what. It's a great place. It's super modern. They're throwing up skyscrapers left and right like nobody's business. It's a pretty safe part of Mexico as well, if that's something you're worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mexico City, I really can't say anything else about it. It's just like the biggest city in the Americas for a reason. Oh, okay. I was just about to forfeit the rest of my time, but I didn't have any time. So there you go.
Yeah. So I'm going to take it back to, I think it's interesting. We're both taking it back to the New World, taking it a little bit more local. Mine's even more local. The capital of a different continent in the United States of America, or in the Americas, the capital of the United States of America, Washington, D.C. I've never been, this is the only place, spoilers again, this is the only place on my list from the United States at all.
That's really surprising that you've never been to D.C. That's really interesting.
I've been to so many significant places. I was thinking about it and I was like, I feel like besides I was thinking about I haven't been to Miami, I haven't been to Philadelphia, but besides that, most major American cities I've been to. I've been to, and besides Washington D.C. included in that list, most major American cities I've been to. I've been to, everywhere in Texas, obviously, tons of places in California. I think every major city in California.
Yeah.
At least briefly, New York, Boston. These are places I've been to a lot of these places, but never made it down to our nation's capital, or made it up to our nation's capital.
So tell me what's the draw for you?
The draw, well, I am a governmental. I think the draw is you mentioned with Mexico City, it's a little bit easier to go. This is even easier. This is I think probably a 2.5, maybe 3 hour flight to get to DC.
It's a more fun drive though.
You really?
I would recommend driving actually, because I've been to DC.
You have been to DC. Okay. Well, just to finish my draw, I want to hear about your road trip. But my draw to DC is like just the history, I've heard the history, the museums, the monuments, like just kind of like getting a sense of that. Like I'm a governmentally involved person, so like just kind of go into the room where it happens. Obviously, I'm not like a West Wing type, I've got like somewhat of a more pessimistic view of our nation's government, but still, it's, kind of awe-inspiring to go there.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I've heard that they have like, and this is probably just because I know people that live here, as opposed, I'm sure that Cairo, Istanbul, and Berlin, and my next city all have poppin' nightlives. I know for a fact that lots of them do. But like Washington, D.C., just because I know people that have lived there, is like, I know that they've got a pretty poppin' nightlife just out there, So I'm definitely, that's a place I would want to take advantage of that.
You'll be clubbing, and you turn around and there's Ted Cruz, clubbing along with you.
He's doing the little like fist. I can just see him now, like doing a little like fist bump, like dance moves, like nerdy dance moves. But yeah, well, tell me about your road trip to DC, because that's
yeah. So I know I mentioned the drive is good. I never road tripped to DC. I road tripped from DC back to Laredo. Oh. So I know, just reverse the experience. I know that it's doable. It's a lot of fun. I flew to DC for a law camp that I did when I was in high school. And my parents, our family, we had we were like, hey, why don't we just pick me up when I'm done with that, and then have our vacation in Washington and in Virginia, and then drive back. And that's time's up. So there you go.
All right. Your number 2.
So my number 2, probably a little bit, I don't know about surprising, or just like maybe a bit more of the odd one out here, where I'm sticking it to the Americas. I'm keeping it in Mexico as well. So Mexico gets my number 2 and my number 3.
Okay, wow.
My number 2 is a city that I just talked to you about off air, Mérida, Yucatan, in Mexico. This is the capital of the state of Yucatan in Mexico, which is right on the Yucatan Peninsula. If you believe some of the leading scientists, the peninsula is where the asteroid hit that knocked out all the dinosaurs. And Yucatan, another cultural center of not only of Mexico, but also of Latin America, and just the Americas in general, is where the Maya laid claim to lots of land there.
Yeah.
And the Mayan influence is it's everywhere. In Mérida, there's a thriving indigenous community there. It is the safest large city in Mexico, with a murder rate that beats most U.S. cities. So, yeah. I mean less than is what I meant. not that it's better, not that it has more murders.
Yeah, when you say beats, I think that I wouldn't consider that beating us. But yeah, I definitely understand. Yeah.
Cultural center, it is, it's a hop, skip, and a jump from, you name it. The pyramids, Chichen Itza. There's historical, there's museums, there's historical districts. There's, again, you have that Spaniard influence there as well, which, taken in a modern context, I think, it's fun, right? It's a tourist kind of thing. And we talked about this off air, but I mentioned here, I'm a dual citizen, and I have always looked very strongly at this city and this state of Yucatan in particular as a potential area where maybe I would like to live, actually live at some point in my life, because I have the potential to. It seems like a good place for an expat like myself, although I don't know if I can call myself an expat, given that I'm also a citizen of the other country too. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do in Mérida. It's one of the fastest growing cities in Mexico. Yeah, I guess I'll forfeit my time because I've sort of hit everything that I want to hit on. And I don't know a lot about Southern Mexican gastronomy, and I would love to get a taste for that there as well. It's pretty similar, but also different.
The cool thing about like having two cities, I think, from the same country, is that you can kind of like get more of an idea of kind of the nuances, I think, between, like, if you were to visit both Mexico City and Yucatan, Mérida, I think you could see the nuances between the two like gastronomies, and I think that would be super cool because obviously they're both Mexican food, but it's like what makes this Yucatan food,
and just culturally too, because I've already been to a few
Any
places
yeah.
in the north side of Mexico. You know, I've been to Nuevo Laredo, I've been to Monterrey. You know, so that's kind of covers the northeast side of the country. But you know, the central and south, I'm fascinated by it. You know, and I would love to go, and you know, and cut my teeth there, and maybe potentially live. Oh, dang!
See, I think I wanted you to keep on going just so I could say time. You know, like
yeah, it's brutal.
Maybe I should talk briefly about my honorable mentions first. Do you think? Number one, I just have one honorable mention really, and it's just like Spain in general. I think that particularly maybe I would say Barcelona and Madrid, but there's also a lot of parts of like more southern Spain that I would really be interested to like seeing the Middle Eastern, again with the confluence of the European and Middle Eastern cultures. To end it out, this is my legit number one place is Paris, France. Okay,
nice.
And this is like again like
Vive la France.
Yeah, I wanted to do. I didn't have the cheating power. Okay, I didn't have the wiggle room power that Marco had.
Come on.
But like, kind of do hopefully want to like, and obviously any French trip I would take, if I would take like a pure travel, non-business related trip to France, I would have to go to both Paris and some surrounding places, just because it's like to make that trip make sense.
Yeah.
Although you can spend like 2 weeks straight in Paris, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, you could probably spend like several years in Paris. Yeah, exactly. There's people who do it, But yeah, I mean, like seriously, like there's so much to do there. Like there's like I don't even know where to start. You've got like these kind of like more ancient, like not ancient, but like longer historical things with things that have been there for years and years, and like going back to the medieval times to the French Revolution, and now you've got these like more modern and modern loosely, like the Eiffel Tower and like modern like the Louvre, like the new parts of the Louvre, and you also have the old parts of the Louvre, which you're getting like the more like Baroque, like older parts of it, and going with the museums there, the history there, and again, not to like, I don't want to gloss over the obviously negative colonial aspects when we're talking about these museums, like it's kind of hard not to talk about like the artifacts that have been taken and whatnot, but it still is like an amazing place to visit and to see, and yeah, it's and it's a culture that I'm not like, I don't know, like I know some, like I feel like French culture, even though the person I'm currently dating is part French, like I feel like it's a culture I'm just super unfamiliar with. Like I don't very know, like for example, like French phrases too much, and like I know French food, but like I know like La Madeleine and whatever, and like I know like American kind of like creolization of French food and culture and whatnot, but definitely something that like and just like the entire just the atmosphere of just chilling, waking up one day, getting out of my hotel or Airbnb or whatever I end up doing if and when, I mean really when, because I feel like this is one place that just have to go before I die.
For sure.
Just waking up and picking up a freaking croissant and just like chilling at the bakery or whatever, the cafe.
I said this before and I'll say it again. The reason why Americans don't eat like Brits is because of France. It's because of France and Spain and Germany and Italy, but it's also like the big part is France.
I think all these places, except for maybe DC, which I just didn't have time to gloss on, but all these places I've been talking about the gastronomy, the food, and one of the places I have visited obviously didn't make the list because I visited it, but also didn't make the list because I'm not as interested in the food, would be England. And oh man, yeah, I just didn't like. I don't like English food. I don't like.
I love it. You ended it at a slight at England. I love it.
Yes, yeah, that's beautiful.
That's beautiful. That's the way to go. A few just real quick honorable mentions. I mentioned a few cities in North Africa, Algiers, Tunis, Cairo was on my list as well. Istanbul was on mine. I'll mention Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. I'll mention Mecca as well, also in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, just cultural, super cultural and religious centers as well. Also acknowledging my male privilege there, just really quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
New Delhi and Delhi in India, Shanghai, China. I mentioned Singapore. I mentioned Jakarta in Indonesia. And just really quick, Havana in Cuba. Can't even... Yeah. All of those could have easily... Every one of those cities could have easily been top 5.
Yeah. And those are places I really hope I hope I visit everywhere on this list, but I really hope I visit everywhere, on an extended list like that, because those are amazing places. There's
no shortage of great places. But for number 1, I got to keep it classic. I got to keep it basic. And I imagine, based on what you just said about prominent American cities that you've been to, that you've been here to, I think you listed a whole bunch of them. I didn't remember. But my number 1 is New York City.
Yeah. I knew that was going to be on there for you.
I have been to LA, I've been to Chicago, I've been to Washington, I've been to St. Louis, I've been to Indianapolis, I've been to Houston, I've been to Las Vegas. I have not been to New York. I mean, that is the big crown, infinity stone, whatever you want to call it, that I'm missing on my, See America thing. And New York has my favorite buildings. It has, some of the greatest places to be. I mean, I don't even have to tell you about food in New York.
Yeah.
You've got your Italian influence, your Dominican influence, your Cuban influence. You've got, French there as well, and
you just
German.
Go down the street, and I feel like going down one street, you can just get a bunch of influence in, Little Italy, different parts of the city. Yeah.
New York's role on the culture, hip hop culture,
absolutely.
Movies and TV shows. I mean, come on, Friends. I mean, that's all I gotta say. Friends.
The 2 things I knew you were gonna mention, and one of them you haven't mentioned yet, but one of the 2 things I knew you were gonna mention was Friends.
Yeah, I think I might clear that last one for you that I haven't mentioned yet. But places to go in New York, right? You got the Statue of Liberty, you got Ellis Island.
Yeah.
You've got the Chrysler Building, you got Times Square, you got Central Park, the Empire State Building, and I don't know if this is a segment that we might do in the future, but I'll just do a little spoiler for it now. But my favorite skyscraper of all time.
I knew it.
One World Trade Center in downtown Manhattan. I mean, the whole World Trade Center complex, even the 9/11 Memorial Museum, is a must go for me. One World Trade Center, also known as Freedom Tower, my favorite building, my favorite skyscraper of all time. It's a must. I have to go.
Yeah.
At some point in the future. I mean, it's New York, man. What else do you want me to say? It's just
concrete jungle where dreams are made of.
The reputation it's earned. It has it. It's earned it. Just go. I've never even been, but I already recommend it.
I have been. And I would. I think you had your little flex on me with your Washington, D.C. trip.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. voyage. But my little flex on you is I've been to
Massive
New York.
Flex.
I actually been twice. Once when I was I couldn't remember. I was I think it was first grade, 5 years old. So I didn't really remember that at all. Just snippets of memories. But I remember very vividly the second time I went, because I was a senior in high school. I was 18 in 2017. And I went for a yearbook voyage. We had our yearbook awards, and it was a blizzard there, and it was amazing, and it was so picturesque, and New York and the winter is just amazing. And time, I timed myself. I'm sorry, I monopolized your time.
I did that with you. That's fine. We can always fit in some follow-up, some city follow-up for next episode if you feel like you have a few things to say. So we've been teasing it a little bit here and there throughout this episode.
Sprinkling little bread trail.
We're doing hints. We've been dropping hints that we were going to talk about a major album released by a major artist. We're slightly late to the game here. That's just a result of, recording schedule and everything, but we're hoping that this is still relevant.
Please be relevant.
It's not Certified Lover Boy. We are reviewing... We're reviewing Donda by Kanye West. Wake up, Mr. West.
What are your initial thoughts of the album?
Well, okay. before I get into that, I just want to like acknowledge the big smelly elephant in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Donda, the album had such a crazy, hectic drop, like launch sequence, I guess. But I want to make it clear. I want to like put it on the table right now that we're not going to talk about that because it's too big, it's too messy, it's too like weird and kind of problematic.
Yeah.
Let's just put it out there on the table right now that we're not going to talk about it because it's going to waste time from talking about the music. Can you commit to that, Eli? We're not going to talk about the rollout. We're just here to talk about the music.
I think the one thing that I will just kind of give to my perspective of it, I didn't know, like I was just told to listen to this album by people who are like Kanye fans, right? So I was very tangentially like, you know, not directly following this stuff about like the drop and all of the drama there and all of the, you know, I did some research afterwards to like about these like live stream shows and like all that stuff. And, you know, I think that, definitely I think one thing I want to acknowledge about the drop and like maybe like put as an asterisk on the drop is
sure.
You know, kind of like the problematic nature of like, and I think this permeates the album. I don't think we can talk about the album without talking about some of the problematic things because, you know,
and we will,
you know, listening to the album, I didn't know. And then I listened to a bunch of like Anthony Fantano or like Pitchfork, read Pitchfork reviews, all that stuff, you know, the classic, you know, where you go.
You're like, I want to know what my opinion is. So you go.
Yeah, exactly.
And you consult the needle drop and you're like, yes, thank you for my opinion.
But like, I you know, to clarify, it's like, I had an opinion before. So I think I had two opinions of the album, two perspectives of like, before I knew about all this controversy and then like after knowing about the controversy.
Yeah.
And I don't think, you know, to kind of like, I don't think that Pitchfork like made my opinion right, but I think that the context that they gave, that like the information that they gave, because there's some parts of the review that I'm going to talk about that I didn't agree with, but I think some of the things that they gave were things that I was like, oh man, this changes how I feel about not how my opinion of the record. It's like it changes how I feel about my opinion about the record, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you read reviews. I knew what Anthony Fantano thought about it, but I didn't read anything else. I tend to do my due diligence on that, but this time I didn't.
Interesting.
Because I did write like a million notes on it.
Yeah, I heard.
Because we did the Taylor Swift reviews, and I consumed a lot of reviews for that to try to contextualize my own thoughts. But on this one, I didn't read a whole lot. You know, I knew that there were pitchforks, and I knew that there were, you know, a few provocative reviews that were like, oh, we're going to give this a 0 because of this and that. And all of that is fair enough, right? And we've hinted at it. There's going to be a little bit of problematicness here that we'll talk about. But I did mean just for the launch thing, like I just didn't want to like touch on the messiness of like all the listening parties and all that, because that's just noise, you know, that's just noise. And we're here to talk about the music. So, and you asked me what I thought about it, but let me turn it around and ask you what you thought about it, and then I'll let you know what I thought about it.
So yeah, I think my general initial opinions on it, I think that one thing that like did not change on my opinion of it was that it felt really long, and it felt like, you know, as someone who has generated content, you know, we're generating content right now as we speak.
We're doing it.
I've generated content like, you know, in different aspects of my life, like either professionally or personally. I just know the power of, you know, the cut. Like you got to cut it down. You just got to cut it down, and it makes it so much better. And I think that there was some real gems on this album. And, you know, I think that he lost some focus on it a bit. Because the album's name is Donda, right? After his mother, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, after his mother, I didn't get a ton. Like, I just didn't really feel like I was listening to an album about his mother. You know, I kind of get it. Like some of the, you know, like obviously the religious influence and like the personal, like reflective influence of it, like how that like kind of relates to his mother. But I just didn't feel like I was listening to an album about somebody's mother throughout the entire time.
Yeah.
Like there was points where I like got like what he was trying to do and like got how he was trying to notice. I think he was like part of it. I felt like some of it it felt like he was kind of asking for forgiveness, which I thought was kind of an interesting perspective on it. But anyway, I just felt like it was a little messy. It was like, did he want it to be about gospel? Did it want to be about his own atonement for maybe his sins, or like what kind of are you going for? So I thought it was a little bit cluttered. I thought it was a bit messy. I thought even like in a max, like a general perspective, a more wider perspective, I think that some songs could have been cut. I think in a more specific, like micro view, I think that some verses could have been cut off songs. I think that
easily,
it felt like a little cluttered, lots of features, and so the part twos, and I kind of want to I want to focus on this, and I'll hand over the mic to you, or hand over the platform to you in a second. But just one thing that I want to say about the part twos is that, so when I thought of part two, I was thinking that these would be like remixes or like new, like I don't know, like just different versions, like the musicality would change. Mm-hmm. But really what it was just like changing the features, really, like, right? Like that's what I noticed, correct. Right?
Yep.
It was just literally changing the features. And I think I think we should wait till a little bit later to talk about the problematicness of, DaBaby and Marilyn Manson and all that.
Right.
Definitely something we want to talk about because I think it's like important to the album, and like, it's definitely ruined a bit my viewing experience after knowing that they were on the album. It was like, oh, because this is at the end, right? It was the part two of Jail, I think was what they were on, and it kind of ruined the end of the album. I was like, oh man, because I didn't know about the watch parties and that they were there as well, and I was like, oh man, that's kind of icky. But anyway, the part twos, it getting rid of all those like particulars of like the problematicness of the features, it just feels kind of like, like imagine being on the part two, like it's just weird, like, right, like because it's like, oh, you just thought I was like the not as good feature on the album, which I get it. It's like going against Jay-Z or whatever. Like, oh yeah, that's understandable. But like, it's weird just to have like, it's like, oh, I'm your like sub, basically. I'm on the album. I'm on like the second. Like, I would much rather be on like the ending track that is like not a very popular track of the album, but just have my own track on the album than have like, oh, I have the second fiddle version of the main track.
Right.
Or at least like clarify it as like, this is the live version, or this is like change the musicality a bit, maybe to fit my style or something. But it's literally just changing the feature. It really did feel like, you are, second fiddle, like you're not as good. And like, I don't know, like that's weird. And obviously for DaBaby and Marilyn Manson, it's like on some pretty like moral levels, yeah, they're not as good. They're not as good people, and like kind of like, problematic that they're there in general, obviously.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that was weird to me. Like I'm not super familiar with any other albums that do that, where it's like you have a part two where it's just like, oh, it's like, let's try something else. Like, because I wonder, like, did Jay-Z or like whichever part two version, like, did they record their verse first and then he got like the real person? He was like, oh, I like this one better. Like, I don't even know what his thought process is there.
I mean, there's like, all the Kanye fans will tell us, like, with excruciating detail what the exact things were about.
This was all part of the plan,
Right, and it's like, I don't care about that. Like, we're like, this is and I was like you, that I did not, like, I knew that the album parties were happening and everything and all this drama. I, like, purposely was like, I'm not going to follow any of this because I will listen to the album when it's on Spotify.
And I think this is a cool perspective. If I had more time and I cared more, maybe...
Right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I would watch like more of them, because I think it is interesting perspective of like hearing like, oh, he improved, like from week to week he's improving his song, and it's like, oh, you're seeing his development, and I think he might be seeing how certain things are playing and he might be changing it up. I don't know.
My whole thing, I don't like leaks. I don't like, I don't have anything morally wrong with leaks or anything. It's more just like, I don't listen to leaks a lot. I don't the fact of the matter is this album is only going to be judged by the final complete version of it.
True. Yeah.
Like, I don't want to judge it against these listening parties. Oh, which verse was better? Oh, it was at the Chicago one. Oh, it's at the Atlanta one. Oh, it's at this one. It's at that one.
Yeah.
It's in the Phoenix one, then the Turkmenistan one. You know, like none of that matters, right? Like in 5 years, when people think about Donda, they're going to think about this Spotify streaming record, right?
Well, and what from what I've heard, and again, I listened to it a little bit later than the release, but I heard that he even changed it there. Like I heard that the original Spotify release was an unfinished version that.
Now we're back in Life of Pablo territory where he kept doing that to that.
Yeah,
but I don't mind that so much because eventually he did stop messing with it.
Yeah, and I think we have the definitive version now that we just listened to. I think
we probably definitely have definitive Donda right now, which is what I listened to it again yesterday just to shore up my thoughts and write these notes. And so, what do I think about it? I want to just echo the first macro thing. This sucker is too long. It's an hour and 48 minutes, which is like 2 minutes longer than Taylor Swift's Fearless Taylor's version. That one I kind of excuse because we talked about that, someone recently, and I also mentioned that it was too long. That one I excuse because it had like 9 bonus tracks or something ridiculous like that.
It's kind of like an anthology almost album.
And I guess that this one, that Donda, all of the part 2s, you could call them bonus tracks. It would still make this thing 23 tracks long and still really long.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to what I would consider probably the final track of the main version, which is No Child Left Behind, which is a beautiful song, it should be said, you have heard a lot of music and a lot of songs, some of which I would call filler. And maybe not particularly strong moments, but I think even barring that, I think there's a lot to like here. A lot. It's definitely his best effort since The Life of Pablo, which is one of my personal favorites from him. And I mean, there is no shortage of great moments here. I think as far as like straight up duds go, there's only a few. It's more so that some of these tracks could have been consolidated. Like a lot of these tracks have a great verse or a great production element, but maybe you could have combined some of those things to create fewer tracks, right? You could combine a good verse here with a good production there and a good feature there from 3 songs, turn them into 1 song, right?
Yeah.
I know that production and the vision and everything, doesn't really lend itself to that necessarily, but I'm just talking about like...
Well, it doesn't, but like, I think that there needs to be more forethought here. I think that there was maybe a lack of forethought, it felt like, in my viewing experience.
Yeah, I would say so too. The album starts off very strong. Jail, which is track number 2, is, a highlight. You'll be humming... Guess who's going to jail tonight? Like for the rest of your life. Like you will be saying that for the rest of your life. You mentioned Jay-Z on this one. He did a fantastic job. No complaints there.
As someone who's like only tangentially following the Kanye drama, I thought it was cool that like Jay-Z, that the throne, this might be the return of the throne tonight or whatever the lyric was.
Yeah, Hove talks about like this might be the return of the throne. He talks about, walking with God and all that, the
and he talks
spirituality.
About, like, the Trump too. With Kanye, he's like not afraid to like go there, provoke that a bit.
That's the whole thing. The whole essence of Kanye is the provocateur nature of it, and I think it's great that his features bring some of that energy too. I love the outro drums on Jail too. Some people thought they were kind of out of place. I know Anthony Fantano thought they were out of place, but I thought they were really good. It's the drums are one of the reasons why I'll come back to this song and hear the whole thing. The whole verse, the production, but I love that crisp percussion at the very end of the track. God Breathed, of course, another great song to start off with. Off the Grid, which kind of became a hit. You'll have "We Off the Grid" in your head for the rest of your life.
Very true.
Playboy Carti did his thing in a way that I didn't expect. I'm not a big fan of Carti, but I couldn't imagine literally anyone else on a track so erratic and spazzy like this one. 5 Foreign too, great verse on the song too.
I thought Jonah was a really catchy one too. That one like stuck out as like a really catchy verse.
So Jonah is like the seventh song on the record. I think that for me, that's probably where the songs stopped being as good as the rest of each other. Like, you know, you had Jail, God Breathe, Off the Grid. You had Hurricane with The Weeknd, which was great.
Yeah. I knew that was...
Yeah. And we'll get back to that too. Praise God with Travis Scott, who I'm embarrassed to say I'm way too excited to hear Travis Scott on a song. I'm like a frat boy.
Me too, yeah. I'm a Houstonian, man. What can I say?
When you hear like his vocals with that spacey production, I mean, it's like Astroworld. But then Jonah comes, and it's a good song, but I think it was the first song that I thought was like, okay, we're not beating the previous highs anymore. Like now we're starting like maybe the filler side of things. But then it kind of switches up on me because then you have Okay, which I think is maybe one of the highlights on this record.
Yeah, that was definitely a hype, like kind of like, I don't know, I definitely got hype from that, you know?
I think it definitely has to be a Drake diss on some of the thing. But it's funny because I think Kanye kind of sounds like Drake on the hook
song?
For this one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds very hype. Drake is a very hype artist, and like I definitely get that from...
He has a kind of energy that seems very Drakey, and I like Drake, so I don't mind it, even though he's dissing Drake. But like I don't mind the energy. I think the energy is really good. So another highlight for me. But then I think the next track is one that I didn't love. Junya, sorry.
Junya.
Easily the first skip for me. Easily the first skip.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's 2 times. You have to skip it twice because there's a part 2 to it.
We'll get to the part 2s. Like, you know, we talked about the part 2s. Oh, it was just a quick... So, really quickly back to the part 2s. When I thought of part 2s, I thought that, you know, maybe like you, that I thought these were going to be like extensions of the previous songs with like maybe a production flip, some new verses and stuff like that. You know, like Father Stretch My Hands Part 2.
Yeah, it took continuation with totally different like beat, like totally different like vibe, like but like continuation. Yeah.
And you mentioned like these are just like nothing. These are just like new verses and like nothing. Like there's nothing here for that. But you know, on Okay, I'm just reading the lyrics here just to make sure. All you rap sound like me, can't tell who is who. You got no real identity, can't tell you from you. That sounds so much like Drake. I think he does it really well. I don't know if that biting the flow is kind of a diss in itself too. Not great. Okay is great. And then Junya to me feels kind of like a skip. Believe What I Say is another like peak, I think, for me. Because it's got the groovy bass line. It's been so long since we've heard Kanye over production like that.
Yeah, the production was really like, I felt like there was different eras of Kanye coming out in some of this production, you know?
Yeah.
Like a lot of The Life of Pablo, but some like Yeezus too, and like some like, even like earlier than that, like kind of Kanye vibes coming out. So I thought it was interesting.
Let's jump to one of the final songs here. Well, not the final, but like, maybe near the halfway point. I mean, this record is so long. Jesus Lord. You mentioned early Kanye. I think this song, the song structure kind of reminded me a lot of Never Let Me Down, which it's like a long song with like verses that talk about spirituality and their beautiful lyrics, and there's like the feature structure. You know, to me, it reminded me a lot of Never Let Me Down, you know, even if like the production's not the same or anything like that, but it's, I mean, these are classic Kanye bars, like on Jesus Lord, and the verses are just monstrously long. I mean, this is the second longest track here on the record, 8 minutes long. I mean, these are just huge verses that are packing so much lyricism, so much subject matter at you. I mean, you can't help but appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I would agree that there's like, I'm glad that I finished the record because there was like definitely some ups and downs, but there were some ups even towards the end. Definitely the high points I think were at the beginning. What would your, like, if you were to like narrow down one track, what would your high point be? Like your top track, and what do you think your low point would be on the album?
Low point easily is probably Junya.
Okay, interesting. I don't think it was that. For me, it was like not low point. You know, I don't know. It was at least like kind of memorable for me.
Okay, then I'll give you a new one. Tell the Vision seems like it has no reason to be on there. Rest in peace, Pop Smoke, of course, but it's like it doesn't fit the narrative at all.
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere that the original version had Pusha T on it. I mean, Pusha T would have been great on this record. I don't know why his absence is here. I know it probably has something to do with the whole rollout, and I don't care about that. I think it's sad that I would have loved Pusha T on this record. So yeah, definitely a low point because it just felt like a useless kind of interlude kind of thing. But rest in peace, Pop Smoke.
Sure, yeah.
I think so. I mentioned Believe What I Say, which was really good, really groovy. One of the ones that I really remember a lot from this record. But the high point, I want to give it to. This is kind of basic, but I don't know. There are a lot of really great points here. I mean, Hurricane with The Weeknd. I mean, just being greeted.
That's what I thought it was going to be with Marco.
Being greeted with those angelic vocals from the one, the only, The Weeknd, Abel Tesfaye. I mean, there's nothing better than that. And he talks about like The Dawn coming too, which is cool because it's like he's talking about his own album coming out soon. Like, it's great. Lil Baby did his thing on Hurricane 2 in a good way, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll give it to Hurricane, Off the Grid as well. So kind of near the first half of the record with lots of great smashes. But really, I mean, Jesus Lord too. Again, like I mentioned, it's kind of
classic Kanye.
It reminds me of classic Kanye. He's got storytelling. Jay Electronica was a great addition to this. Very welcome too. He kind of switches up the flow. He has like a different vocal quality to Kanye too, which is like a nice contrast, which I like. Donda, the song, the title track, that monologue is Donda herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it flows so perfectly. It's weaved effortlessly through the song, and the choral breakdown at the very last part of the track is just gorgeous. I mean, they're really putting the Sunday service choir to work on this record, but it's like this is what you want that choir for, for this.
Yeah, if you're gonna go for the gospel vibes, then go for it.
It's great. And on the title track, there's a woman vocalizing with Kanye that everyone thought was Ariana Grande. I don't know if you got that vibe from that or not.
I didn't know. Like I wasn't expecting that, so I don't think I had that. Which song was it again?
This is the title track, Donda.
Donda. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's not Ari, because I thought when I first heard the song, I was like, this is Ariana Grande. Everyone thought it was Ariana Grande, and because the features were not confirmed in classic Kanye fashion, we were like, it's Ariana Grande. But then Ari came out and said, no, it's not me. But still a great song. And she actually commended the vocalist that it was, which is a woman named Stallone, who I guess is like a Kanye signee or protege or something.
Interesting.
Yeah, great vocals from Stallone. Great song, great production, instrumentation. So yeah, I would say, Jesus Lord, the title track, Believe What I Say, Hurricane, and No Child Left Behind. I mean...
Yeah. To rear it up, yeah.
It's the basic pick. It was a TikTok smash, but I mean, it's short, it's simple, it's insanely memorable. When Kanye says he's done miracles on me, that's going to go down as one of his most iconic verses lyrics ever. It has to go down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you?
I think, so I was thinking about this before, and I think that just to kind of encapsulate, like, I think these are like legitimately my favorite and least favorite, but I think it like also kind of encapsulate like what I thought was great and what I thought was, problematic and like unfortunate and like kind of wrestling with my like Kanye whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Was my high point I think was Jail Part 1, Jail the song, like the original second track on the whatever.
Yeah,
just amazing to open it. I think it was like really inspirational. It was very like. I think we've kind of heard it before, maybe. Like, we've heard, like, similar things on Life of Pablo. I got really Life of Pablo vibes off of that, but I thought it was really, like, catchy.
Off of Jail, I got Ultralight Beam vibes from it.
Definitely.
Like, immediately.
It was, like, the opening song, so it makes sense that it would be. Like, and they're both... Ultralight Beam is also the opening song on The Life of Pablo. So it got, like, very, like, massive... Like, I felt, like, a lot of fanfare. I thought it was really cool because I was, like, surprised by Jay-Z being there. And, the way he, like... raps is so iconic and it's like very flowy and it was like they just have they play off each other really well.
The chemistry is just unbelievable between Kanye and Jay-Z.
it's undeniable. I think that while I think there just was no denying that they had like that chemistry. Yeah. But I think that ironically, I think that the song that encapsulates was my least favorite song on the album, and encapsulates a lot of the problems that I had with the album, kind of hearing about the, controversy and hearing about everything that's kind of going down with it, would be Jail Part 2, ironically. Jail Part 1 being my favorite, Jail Part 2, with features that I felt, Jail Part 2, I think that it encapsulates the part of the album. It's it's too long. This is unnecessary. You don't need two versions of the exact same song. Mm-hmm. And it also having, this Marilyn Manson and DaBaby features on it. It's I'm not even saying is obviously I want to be an ally to victims of sexual assault, and I want to be an ally to the the LGBTQ community as well.
Right.
That's why it's difficult to listen to this album a bit. But on top of that, I think that it's just ruins. It's it's really gross to kind of listen to, and it's and the kind of the subject matter of, I think, jail is Jesus forgives you, Jesus or God's got my bail tonight or whatever. Yeah. It's forgiveness. And I think he was trying, and this was not cohesive throughout the album. So I think that it's tough to even put my finger on this, but I feel like he was trying to say forgiveness for these canceled, quote unquote, canceled people, mm-hmm. Marilyn Manson and DaBaby. And that's even more on the nose with this. And for one, it felt artistically unearned that the rest of this album is not about cancel culture. I don't really get that a lot from the rest of the album, but on top of that, it's just no, these people should not be after saying these horrible things and doing these really, really horrible things. No, we shouldn't, there should not be this uncanceled forgiveness, cultural, whatever. I know he's provocating, but being a provocateur, provoking reactions, but still, it's oh man, it's rough.
not even coherent either. If it really was going to be some misguided message about forgiveness and whatever, right? That's a very Christian theme, and you can think whatever you want about that, right? But it's not even coherently spoken on. I mean, it's just, Marilyn Manson is just doing backing vocals here, and the DaBaby verse is just what his usual thing is, which, it's not a horrible song or anything. It's just, it's what you're saying. It's this album is too long, and you're doing this, and then we are also reminded of why we kind of struggle to fully embrace you and the rollout and everything. It's everything that I think is kind of wrong with current Kanye and just the bizarre rollout and the incoherent messaging. And incoherent messaging is kind of maybe one of the flaws in this record too, because
absolutely, yeah,
it's ostensibly about his mom, and I think maybe a little bit more than you. I think I did get the lyrics here about his mom. There is a good bit of it, but mm-hmm. most of it isn't quite on that front. I like that the production is good and that the instrumentation is very quality throughout the whole record, most of it. But you're right. I mean, the on most ends, the lyrical front of it is not super relevant to what is ostensibly the record is going to be about. But I think there are some good moments there. Keeping to the part twos just real quick. Junior Part 2, which, again, this was not a good song for me. It has the new T.W.F feature, and I love T.W.F, and T.W.F and Kanye make great songs together. Ego Death and Fade are both great songs that they've worked on together. They have great chemistry.
Yeah.
But this was not a very good feature from Ty, and the chemistry is not there. It's just this was already a song that I didn't like that much. And
then to get a second version of it.
And I'm disappointed that Ty couldn't save it, and I think he kind of winged it. Especially given that I think Fade is such a good song, and my God, Ego Death, go listen mm-hmm. to Ego Death if you've never heard the song. But yeah, too bad about Junior Part 2. We haven't even mentioned that Chris Brown is on this record, which...
Yeah, that too.
Maybe it's a bit nauseating to hear that. it's so disappointing because New Again, the song that he's on, is like a pretty good song.
Yeah.
And like Chris Brown does his thing, but he was just there doing like backing vocals and like a few part of the hook. Like this could have been any singer, anybody other than Chris Brown.
Like, so the thing with that, and almost like more depressing, is that I feel like everyone has, like, you know, re-accepted Chris Brown into like the culture or whatever. And like, you know, at least with Marilyn Manson and DaBaby, it's like there's still like a, you know, cancelability aspect to them. But it's just, it's embarrassing that Chris Brown feels like it's been like totally put back in the culture. Like he's not even on the part 2. He's in like the record, you know, and it's, yeah, I definitely get that too, you know?
Yeah.
And this isn't the first time, you know, obviously in Waves was Chris Brown and that was post, like, you know, things coming to light about him, you know? So this has been continuous thing with Kanye, you know?
And despite all this, though, the feature controversy, I think this record really shows that, I mean, Kanye is pretty good at putting together a project like this and incorporating these features from people that you wouldn't expect to hear on specific tracks or even on a Kanye record, or talking about this lyrical content. I mean, there's some really well-placed features here. Lil Yachty is on this record and doing something that on OK. And I mean, Yachty sounds hungry in a way that he's never, to me, sounded before. I mean, super well-placed feature, and that's surprising to hear. You know, Don Toliver's on this thing, Kid Cudi's here, Jay Electronica's here, Roddy Ricch is here, The Weeknd is here. I mean, these are like great features, and they're pretty much well-placed all over this thing. And there's guest production. Mike Dean, of course, produces a lot of it. Gesaffelstein is on the production as well, which is really, really cool to hear. Yeah, I mean, there's Weezy Outta here too. It's just he is like super good at putting together this project. It's just so like disappointing when there are certain choices that you feel like, you know, this could have been anybody. Like,
yeah.
Like on New Again, like Chris Brown. I mean, this could have been Usher, could have been Jeremiah, it could have been like, I don't know, Trey Songz, you know, it could have been literally anybody other than, if you wanted to go for that classic like R&B singer vibe, like there are so many better options than Chris Brown.
For a lot of reasons, I feel like there should have been another person in the room. I feel like for a lot of these decisions, you know, maybe when you get as big as Kanye and you're like want to like, there's a beauty to like having complete artistic control over certain aspects of projects, I guess. But I think also, yeah, I don't know. There still is like, I feel like a lot of times you do need another person in the room, you know, to like maybe bounce ideas off of or like cut things down, be a little bit more critical. And it would just feel like there's no like second person that was run by. I don't know.
Well, this is the whole thing with a lot of these big rappers that you hear a lot that they don't have, that all they have is yes men, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Your entourage. Yeah.
They surround themselves with people that will not challenge what he has to say. I mean, this is like, you know, like you hear about this a lot with Eminem, who is very capable of producing a great record. It's just he makes these bizarre production choices and lyrical theme choices and feature choices, and you're like, dude, like couldn't someone from like Travis Scott's camp or somebody like just come and just advise you, say no to this, say no to that, you know, help you produce a great like a modern trap record or you know, something a bit more timeless. You know, couldn't someone from like Good Music or whatever just kind of oversee what everyone is doing? You know, like why do you have to make these records? And it's the same thing with Kanye. Like I think somebody from or somebody, you know, just oversee it and say, hey Kanye, no and no. And don't do that, and don't say this, you know. But even despite that, I mean, I think, you know, pound for pound, this is a good record. It's just, you know, there are some blemishes here.
I think that the two things. So I read the Pitchfork review. I don't know if you end up reading that one, but there's two things that before we jumped off, I wanted to mention that one kind of seriously and one less seriously. In the Pitchfork review, they talk about the jokes not landing, which, you know, I think I've come around. I think that like the cheesiness of rap I think we've talked about this before. The cheesiness of rap is like something I actually kind of like, of like the cheesy jokes, like the Lil Wayne, like Eminem, like kind of wordplay or whatever. But anyway, they said the jokes weren't landing. And I was like, I don't know. I thought that like some of it was a little flat, but I feel like the one that really caught my eye was the hey with a bunch of Y's, or the hi with a bunch of I's, or whatever it is. I thought that was funny, and like, I felt that like it was not like, I don't feel that it's like personally, but like I understand the energy, and like I remember being, younger, and like being that being like a huge thing. So that I thought was kind of funny, and I didn't totally agree with it. Seriously, I didn't like totally agree with like the jokes all not landing. But
yeah, I think like Kanye, like only there are certain lines on this record that only Kanye is capable of delivering. I mean, on Off the Grid, he says, "I talk to God every day. That's my bestie. They play soccer in my backyard. I think I see Messi." I mean, come on, you're gonna tell me that's not funny? You're gonna tell me that doesn't make you smile? I mean, it's just. There's such a funny,
it's silly.
There's a silliness, there's an innocence to it that only Kanye has ever been able to pull off. And you're right, like I'm with you. I like the kind of corniness. I like the tongue-in-cheekness of hip hop too. I mean, there's no shortage of like dull, serious, boring music. I mean, let's just have some fun here, and let's spaz out a bit,
Yeah. I think I have one last point. I think I have one last point. Was one of the things in the Pitchfork article that they said that I disagreed with too is, and I don't think I disagreed with what they were trying to say here, but I think I just disagreed with it kind of more on like philosophical standings of like, they said, being an evangelical is, and I might be messing up this quote a little bit, but being an evangelical is easy if you only adhere to certain parts of your religion, of a religion. And, I think that the point they were trying to say was like, okay, yeah, look at Kanye, he's trying to be preachy and Jesus-y, but like, we know what he does. Like, we know like blah, 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 like about him and like doing blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're not really a true Christian. I truly believe, again, to get like more like philosophical about it, it's like,
let's get spiritual, man. It's
a spiritual record. We gotta get spiritual. I think that everyone kind of has their own, everyone picks and chooses their beliefs to a certain degree of a religion, like everyone, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's like, my Christianity is gonna be different than your Christianity. Like, of course, like, I think certain people's version of Islam is gonna be different than other people's. And I think there's no problem with that. And I also think, I don't know. It just felt like with the Pitchfork review, I think that they were so like, Kanye is the best thing since sliced bread for so long.
Right.
And like top rated albums, like 10 out of 10, and they gave this one a 6 out of 10. And I feel like part of it is like kind of I don't know. I think that they definitely don't like the religious turn on his music. Like, I think that's kind of, they've caught that as like, that's been a point where they've been less enthused with his work, which is like, fine, whatever. If that's not your thing, that's not your thing.
Right.
But obviously there's other problems with Kanye, recent Kanye especially, that's like, okay, yeah, maybe not this right now, please.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was just an interesting thing for them to target maybe the religion aspect of it. Because it's, come on, like, this guy's got a religion. Like, I think he's like a legitimately devout guy. And like, yeah, I don't think that, re-recording all your songs without swear words is like the most like, Christian thing you can do. That's maybe not my version of Christianity or whatever. But or having this album without swearing or whatever, keeping this album clean. I think that I think that he legitimately, this is a real thing. Like, I don't think this is a marketing ploy or anything. Like, I think this is like a real, like, this is where he's at. And I think it's just kind of backwards or kind of like messed up when like Pitchfork is just kind of like, this is just like, this is not real evangelical, like whatever. It's like, I don't think that. You guys might be the tastemakers of music, but you're definitely like not like the people that can like say, like, you can say, oh, this is good music, this is bad music. Year over year, that's like where you're supposed to do. But I think it's kind of a weird position when you're like, oh, this is Christian, like, this is what Christianity should be or shouldn't be. It's kind of weird vibes.
It is weird because it's like they didn't listen to this record. I mean, a lot of this record is about Kanye contending with like his own misgivings and misdoings, and the stuff that he does that isn't Christ-like or whatever. I mean, there is some of that here. He does talk about that dissonance, but again, like, I think you catch on to something. I mean, the Pitchforks of the world, I mean, they're big thing. They love the alternative music, they love the indie music, and there's a casual disdain towards music that expresses a lot of religiosity unless it's critical of religion, and that's fine, right? People have many good reasons to be critical of religion, myself included. But I think they've kind of poisoned the well of any kind of positive religious music just by, I think, their own attitudes towards spirituality or religion, which kind of ignores the fact that, of course, like, gospel music is one of, like, the leading Black genres, and soul and everything. Soul has a lot of, talk about God and everything, and some of the most influential genres, not only in American music, but, music all over the world. So I think they kind of, again, like I said, they poison their own well by, being too critical or ignoring the fact that people have internal inconsistencies. Kanye is hardly the first person or the last to have his internal. And I mean, there are records that talk endlessly about internal inconsistencies. Like, they feel one way, but they always act another way. Like, and those are records that have, 10 out of 10s and 9.5s or whatever on Pitchfork.
You're wrestling with, like, how you feel about certain things. Yeah.
Right. But I think because it's about Christianity, and I'm not saying Christians are oppressed in America or anything, but I think Pitchfork maybe have, I guess, just an internal bias towards that kind of thing, which, fair enough, right?
Yeah, you have what you have, I guess. I
would say I like this record. I think, the problematic aspects of it are what they are. We've laid them bare. But there are a lot of, I think, soaring highlights here. A few duds, but mostly, definitely. I would hesitate to say, like, oh, cut out 8 tracks here or whatever, because a lot of these tracks do have good aspects to them. I just wish that they were consolidated.
I like what you're saying about consolidated. I wish that we had as high of a high as over, 12 track record or something. I definitely get where you're coming from there.
Yeah. But overall, I do feel positively about this one. If I had to give it like a rating, I'll probably give it the Fantano, and I'll say a 7, a solid 7.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So the Pitchfork was 6, Fantano was 7. I think I'm gonna go 7.